Good morning, everybody. It's Rise and Shine over here at SketchCraft. I'm up in the sketch cave. I know what I like about the new studio is that if I keep the windows shut, they got these no light blinds. Look like kind of like a folding accordion, kind of like that. If I leave it down, then the time of day in here never changes. You can literally, I have been in here so far and started around what is it now? It's 7:07 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, and uh, and I've started around 7 a.m. and been here until my wife came came home. 12 hours, 12 hours later. So, which, by the way, is not good, folks. Since I moved into the new studio, I haven't been on my regular walking schedule, and my break schedule. So the way that I worked it over the last 10 years, when you when you work from home, every 2 hours you want to stop drawing, get up, stretch your feet for about 10 minutes, walk around the yard, wash some dishes, clean down a little section of the kitchen, pick up some stuff on your floor, just keep moving for about 10 minutes and then you can sit down and draw. Uh, some people like to stand when they draw now. They got the standing desks, and I got this Ergotron arm for the Cintiq, but I got some back problems from the army that I can't stand for an hour drawing. I can't stand for 20 minutes drawing. So um, that's not really an option. But if you get up every 2 hours, uh, you'll find that your feet don't puff up. There's a SketchCraft tip for you. Hold on, got my coffee. They say you're not supposed to drink directly into the mic, but if you were talking to me, you'd hear me drinking. So, why get a cup of coffee with people if you're not gonna hear them? You don't want to be rude, right? Start eating potato chips and shit, but so what to do, right? What to do today? Well, we got some more commission stuff and some freelance stuff, and it's gonna be that way for about another week or two. Before Christmas, I want to wrap up a lot of this nonsense before Christmas. So the only thing I have left is power prints, um, and some contract work I'm going to be taking soon. And hopefully, with the contract work, that's like 4 hours of my day. And some people, some friends of mine were asking me like, why with the contract? I thought you're doing good with the commissions and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing fine. But the thing is the more you want to draw, however you want to draw, the less you're gonna make. So I know there's this belief like amongst the newer artists that I hang out with, right? That they believe in drawing their own ways, which I'm all for. But they go to cons and then they don't do so well. And they tell me, well, I didn't do well at the Comic Con. When I say con, I'm talking about comic conventions. And I try to explain to them that that has nothing to do with drawing and being an artist. Those conventions, it's a swap meet. Uh, Having spent many years in clothing, it's like it's a cross for an artist to go to con on a regular schedule, about 20, 30 shows a year. And I know artists that do it. They they're basically like living this life where they're one part like comedian. You know how comedians will go to play the funny bone in fucking Nebraska and then take a red eye to Michigan and come back to their daily grind, I don't know, wherever else they live in some other state. That's kind of like they get a little bit of that. They walk between the comedian world, the the freelance sort of lower end comedian world, and like trend research person, where you're kind of reacting, and clothing is very similar, where you're kind of reacting to the vibe and what sort of sells, in a shorter period of time dictates what you're going to do, and you're constantly making new pieces for the new show, and then what worked here, and then what's working there, and then they're doing the commissions and little sketch covers. And look, I know some people that make that work, and they're doing 20, 30,000 a year, and they just moved their home to the middle of Oklahoma, and they're happy. Uh, for me, like I got paid to do that full time for a long time, and I got paid a lot more than what they're making. So to also like spend my time drawing in a way that it's only gonna sell at these cons, like, and it all sort of blends together. You can kind of like see three or four different styles, but the primary look is that it's either the Adam Hughes realistic smooth, or these sort of like Jim Lee-ish, a little bit more aggressive crosshatchy, and then the variations in between. Sometimes you got the chibi thing is a thing now, right? Where everyone does like the red J chibi. So Derek Loffman has that look too, right? And they're really good at it. But you got to ask yourself, like, what do you want to do? And what happens when those trends go away? They will happen. I mean, at some point, none of it's gonna sell, like not in the numbers that they're thinking, because the cons continue to grow. And as the cons grow, the audience attendance doesn't really grow with that growth, not in the same rate. So the money that people were spending on artists gets diluted further out to more celebrities and more artists that are there. And if they're seeing a lot of the same thing, now you may not sell as much as you used to. I had this happen to me inadvertently when I started doing the Saucy art, 2011. I didn't need my coffee. I gotta remember to drink here, folks. Gotta remember. If I don't have this coffee early on in the morning, it's Fog City. So it's a butter and coconut fat oil thing. All right, what was I saying? Um, so I started the Saucy thing because I was doing digital art for Game Fan and for Tom at Big Dog Inc. and for Ape Entertainment, which my contact there went to go to IDW, so it was kind of like pre-IDW art. And um, and I was just like everything was taking like 12 hours to do one thing. To draw the characters, it was taking me 12 hours. To color, it was taking me 12 hours. Like I just wanted something quick and fast and different, like the opposite, just messy. Something that I would never sell to a single publisher. And I did this Joker watercolor sketch. And I had watercolors for a couple years, tried them, didn't work out the way I wanted it to. Didn't know what I wanted to do with it, just know I wanted to paint. And they sat there. They sat there. So I pulled them out. I did this Joker sketch, and it was a little bust. And I got a giant response from that online, and just so happened that Tom wanted to go out to Phoenix for something, and he asked me to go with him because at the time he was driving from Los Angeles out to Phoenix. So he'd roll into San Diego, pick me up, and then we'd head out to the desert and fucking argue about movies for 6 hours. But I printed some of these saucies up, went to Tucson Con, which at the time was it was behind a Holiday Inn in like a trucking warehouse. Like those warehouses you back a truck into? It was like that. And so Tom, no one was doing well at this con. Nobody. The Baffle was there. The Baffle was like, fuck, I'm not selling nothing. I sold out of everything I had with these Saucies. And so then we went to Phoenix Con, the big Phoenix Con, like the first year it started up. And sold out there. And for a couple years, I'd go to any show, I'd sell out of all the Saucy stuff until I noticed other people doing the watercolor Saucy look, but they weren't painting anything. Most of them weren't painting anything. They started to basically just do kind of like this Ollie Moss thing where they take a silhouette of a character and then in Photoshop they take a bunch of splatter brushes. And I'm sure you've seen it, right? You take the splatter brushes and you make it look like someone vomited a fucking Wonder Woman up on a print. And those started flooding cons and t-shirts, and then the splatter art ended up in, I'm not saying I created it, I'm just saying that there's probably me and a bunch of people simultaneously started doing this because I believe, call me crazy, but I do believe that we're in a neural unconscious, like a subconscious network. So when one person sparks an idea, you ever have an idea and 2 years later it happens, like you see it out there? I just think that when the one person has an idea, a lot of us out there are being pinged too. So I'm certain me and, a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen, 100, whatever, me and a group of artists worldwide started doing this at cons. And then the vultures came in, and they do like what they do in the t-shirt industry when you got a seller. When you got a t-shirt at Walmart, right, and it's a seller, the buyer at Walmart goes, this is the highest selling shirt we got. And then now it's your job to fucking knock that off. And you got no choice, you know? Because that's what the company wants. You gotta just do that, you know? And so that's what artists do. They see what's selling at cons. They see where, oh, this person went there. Oh, they had that booth. They're looking at one another. And you can look, if you look at the way the cons have moved, the artist alley areas in like 2004 all the way to now, you can see like now, fuck. I mean, I didn't, it's not for me, folks. Whatever that is, if you're young and you love it and that's that's changed your life as an artist and you get a total high off that environment, more power to you. Fucking do it. For me, this is not why I went to cons. Is again, I went to meet artists and see new styles. I want to find the new underground book. I didn't know like artists had to make 10, 20 grand at a show to do well. I mean, 10 grand at a show and you're doing 20. I mean, there's got to be. I've never done 10 grand at a show. The most I ever did was 2,000, 2,500 bucks. That's the most I ever did at a show. I don't sell much art. That's the reality. I don't sell much art. But what I have done is I found you folks out there, who like the unique vision. And look, the financial reward for that unique vision is always going to be substantially less than if you just followed the trends and made what's popular. It's always going to be that way. There's the opportunity to strike it rich, right? There's that opportunity that we're like rolling. Hold on one second. I need some coffee. I don't talk loud first thing in the morning. It's weird because I could talk very loud 12 hours from now. But what was I saying? It's the problem when you're talking by yourself, right? Where we at? 10, 14 minutes. So, okay, so unique art, right? That there might be a limit. There's going to be a limit. Now, there's an opportunity that you could strike it big doing your unique style, your ideas. Some artists do. We call those the outliers. They're the exceptions, not the rule. So when you talk to a new artist who tries to tell you about how like a Patreon is making this one artist all this fucking money, that's the exception. It's not the rule. It's amazing. I subscribe every month to a Patreon just so I can complain about it. I think if you have enough audience, like if you have 100,000 YouTube subscribers, it's a smart bet to do something like a Patreon, totally. Because you have 100,000 people here, a million views per, like a accumulated, you got enough of a variety of people that I think, that you're not going to be like harassing them to give you money. But if you got like 12,000 people here and 5,000 and 2,000 followers, give it a shot. Always give it a shot, see how you do. But for me, it feels like I'd just be harassing my audience into giving me the same amount of money I could make if I just said I'm open for commissions and I took 4 or 5, you know. So I just don't see any financial difference. But the goal is to. I want to talk about the unique art really quick. I got 5 more minutes or so, maybe. I won't go past 30 minutes on these. It's my rule. It's my one rule here. It's like this with art styles. In the 90s, there was like this animation renaissance that I hadn't seen since the 80s, the early 80s. You had Tiny Toons come out. You had the Turtles cartoon come out. You had Freakazoid. You had the DuckTales and all the Disney cartoons. You had Gargoyles, the Batman animated series. You had things like Bobby's World, Eeks the Cat. You had all these cartoons. Then you had Beavis and Butthead, like late night cartoons, Liquid Television, which was on MTV, which was a sort of anthology, kind of like music videos for cartoons. So they would just show random bits, and that's where Beavis and Butthead started. That's where a cartoon called The Max, which was based off the Image comic The Max, started. Aeon Flux started there, and it would be all these random cartoons. What's my point? The point is, every cartoon had its own look. Every cartoon had its own look. The Tiny Toons had their own style, and that zany, like Pinky and the Brain and Freakazoid, they all had their own thing. And then when you saw the Batman animated, they had their own look. And when the X-Men cartoons came out, they had their own look. And the Tick cartoon came out, it had its own look. And the Disney afternoon block of DuckTales and Darkwing Duck and Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, and eventually what was that fucking one with the orange cougar? The long tail, the marsupilami, whatever that one was. They had the Disney look, right? Gummy bears and shit like that too, right? Garfield and Friends had its own look. Where am I going with this? All Beavis and Butthead, the Max, Aeon Flux, all had their own look, and they were on the same program initially. What happened was they want to make more cartoons, right? Get more episodes out. Well, there was a thing in the mid 90s where there was sort of this implosion because Congress got involved in cartoons and voted that you couldn't have Saturday morning cartoons. And they replaced it with sports. So you can fucking thank them for that. But as Cartoon Network came out and started bringing back limited animation, like Cartoon Network showed up and they had the Hanna-Barbera catalogs, which was limited animation, and they were doing great. They started making their own cartoons, and the rise of flash animation and web cartoons started. And so you could start to make more content with less people because the budgets were sort of dwindling a little bit. We hit a recession, or we hit the dot-com implosion on the internet. And they, companies don't like spending money hiring people to sit in a room and work on something. They can hire 2 people to do the job of 20. That's how companies work. 99.9 of them. So what happened is over time, this automation of art, you can onion skin and you can marionette characters and move them around, has basically turned into every cartoon looking the same because the cartoons are made for production and the ease of production. I believe that that same mentality is what's infecting artists when they tell me to go use a program that's going to help speed up their workflow. That's what I believe. I believe when they're like, use this program that auto flats for you, or use this that makes your lines perfect. Well, all those things start to make all the art look the same. And I don't mean like because you have a little bit of anime influence in your art, or you have a little bit of Jim Lee influence in your art. I mean, if it's rounding the edges a certain way and it's creating line variants the exact same way across every platform, everyone is going to look the same. It's not good. It's not good. Will you get more done? Absolutely. Absolutely. You'll get more work done. You'll get more done than me. But then maybe at that point, I start doing 3-panel comics and go back to like the Garfield, Calvin, and Hobbes way of doing things. So I don't have to do as much. Make things messy, make things unclean, you know. I don't know. I think the thing that you can future proof, if anything, is just how you problem solve and like how you create. And look, at some point, we're probably all just going to hit a plateau, right? Has Drew Struzan's style really, has it evolved much? No, it's Drew. He hit a point where like that's the thing that makes. He's done other personal stuff, but you know what I'm talking about. Like, does Miyazaki really grown? No, he's told more complex stories. Once you get to the point where you're like, this really defines me, like my art, like this is working, this is everything I wanted to. This is. Then what are you gonna do with it? Tell stories with it, you know? If you're just gonna find more easier ways to make more of it, and everyone has access to those easy ways, like that mentality benefits the studios, not if you're working for DC and Marvel, you're using Clip Studio Paint, and it's helping you get books drawn every month. I'm not fucking pay your mortgage, please pay your mortgage. Fuck what I gotta say, you know. Um, but being as I'm someone that doesn't want to fucking draw for those people anyway, um, why give up your imperfection? Your imperfections are, your mind working it out. And I need to caveat that a little bit. Caveat, is that the right way to use that word? Hmm. It's probably, I don't know. Let me put a little asterisk next to that. There's a difference between your mistakes, quote unquote, like the way you draw a line, the way you round a shape, the way you you inherently do something across skill level. There's a difference between that and fucking drawing horribly. This is where art gets very subjective. Art's subjective, and you're gonna have to learn how to tell the difference. How do I tell the difference, Rob? How do I tell the difference? Well, I don't have time to get into that right now, but I will write. Check this out, folks. I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna grab a piece of scrap paper. In an art studio, you think I'd have more scrap paper lying around, but not a lot. All right, I'm gonna write. How do I tell the difference between style and bad art? Or how do I develop the tools to do that? The mental tools. Because I don't even know if I have the answers right now. It's a continual battle. It's a continual battle. And on that note, we will continue this at a later date. Good morning, everybody. Let's get to work.